Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of Iliad, Book 3, and we're up to line 390. And here Aphrodite has appeared in the guise of an old woman, and we're given details about the old woman earlier on, that she was a carder of wool, and she now says, so Aphrodite, like to her, addressed Min Auten, that is Helen. Dur ithe, now ith of course is from ite, come hither. Alexander, that is Paris, calls you neesthai to come oikondi to the house. Ekenos he, that man, he, understand, is in thalamo, in his bedroom, and in his dinotoisi lekesi. Now lekesi is plural for singular, it's beds. Dunotoisi is an interesting word. It's got this idea of this dino root is of whirling, sometimes translated adorned with circles, so perhaps just decorated. So decorated with circular imagery, so perhaps just decorated. So he is in his bedroom and his decorated beds, or his beds decorated with circles, and he is stillbone, he is resplendent, he is shining. This is an interesting word. It's the word used in Theocritus, Idyll 2 actually, of the handsome Delphus as he comes from the wrestling school, and he's just finished his exercise, and he's been oiled and greased down, and he's stillbone, he's shining, he's resplendent, dative in his beauty, and hymasin, and his clothing. Nor, now we get one of these little tropes here. Homer does this a bit. So, nor would you say, that is talking now to the audience in some sense, would you say or would you think him to have come having fought with a man? So he doesn't look like he's just come from having fought with a man, but kesthai, this is an infinitive, the alpha and iota have been elided here. This is what happens here. So, but to have come, but to go, we'd expect a future, but we actually get a present. So perhaps to be on his way, korondi, to the dance, or kathisdain, to have sat down or to sit down, legonta, from lego, to cease, having ceased. Neon is adverbial, recently, and lego takes a genitive normally, having ceased from the dance. So you wouldn't think he'd just come having fought with a man, but to be on his way to the dance, or to sit down having ceased recently from the dance. And thus she spoke. This is Aphrodite in the guise of the old woman. Now, Erine, this is an understatement here given what's about to come. Literally, she stirred the thumos. Well, your thumos is your heart, but it's also can be a place of anger. So she stirred up the heart, te, for her, that is for Helen, in her breast. When therefore she spied, in noesen, the very beautiful neck of the goddess, because don't forget the goddess is in the guise of an old woman, but Helen suddenly realizes it is the goddess in disguise, and when then therefore she spied the beautiful neck of the goddess, and her desirous breast, and her mamyronta, her flashing eyes, thambason, she was amazed, and ara, as you might expect, then she spoke a word and named her. It's that standard expression there. Now, this is the next section here is quite a dramatic one, and it's one that even in antiquity caused a lot of discussion and debate. Some ancient editors cut the whole section out because it's Helen really goes completely crazy in her abuse of the goddess, and although we do get criticisms of gods elsewhere in Homer, this is really, in comparison, this is really quite over the top. So she says, Daimonie, you strange goddess, why, Lelii, this is second person, singular middle from this verb of desire, why do you desire a parapuane? This is a word meaning to deceive. Why do you desire to deceive me, Tauta, in regard to these matters? A pe me protero polyon eu niomenaon axes, and that's been kept to the next line. The A is that surely. Now the me is enclitic, which has put its accent back onto the pe, but this in fact is the indefinite pe, meaning somewhere, and here it appears to be taking some sort of partitive genitive. There are no other examples of this, I think. So this whole line is very emotional, and you can see that in the grammar. So surely, axes is from ago, the future. You will lead me somewhere. Proteron, further on, and then partitive genitive here is all you can say. Among the well-settled cities, the cities that are well populated, well lived in, either of Phrygia or of beautiful Maeone. If someone also there among mortal men, understand, is dear to you. Now remember that Paris was given in some sense Helen by Aphrodite as a reward for him having chosen her in the beauty contest. So she's being very sarcastic here. She says, if there's some other man who catches your fancy, or he was dear to you, and will you give me also to him in any of these other places? So it's quite sarcastic here. Hunica, because now Menelaus, having conquered glorious Alexander, Menelaus he wishes Agesthai to lead me, who am hateful, Oikadi, back home. So he wishes to lead me back home. Tunica, this is a tu-henica, or tu-hunica. For this reason now, indeed, you are present, literally you stand before me here, you are present here, doliphroneusi, with guileful thoughts. So thinking guileful things. So she seems to be saying to Aphrodite, Paris or Alexander's been defeated, Menelaus wants to take me home, have you got anybody else in mind that you can give me to? Very sarcastic. Hason, this is the imperative from Hamai. So Eusa, going, sit beside him. And this is even more sarcastic. This him is Alexander, Paris. Apo Aki, This is something like to reject, or to mental block on this one. It's to give up the keluthu, the path of the gods. So apoaki, give up the path of the gods. Sorry, renounce. That was the word I was looking for. Sorry, renounce the path or the way of the gods. In other words, give up your immortality. Nor hypostrepseas. This is optative here. We're getting this. It's dramatic. We're going back from imperatives back to optatives. This mixture of the two. Nor may you return to Olympus again with your feet. In other words, he's telling you, give up being a divinity and devote yourself to him, since you're so fond of him. Al-Ie, but continually, Idzue, again back to imperatives again, be anxious, so show concern regarding that man, regarding him, Paris, and guard him. And so I've got these imperatives and optatives. These are imperatives here. As hot, this is idiomatic for until he will make you either his alakos, well, perhaps wife. Some have suggested translate this as mistress in the context, or he will make you his doulain, his slave. Remember, she's saying this to a goddess. This is not very wise things to be saying. So she's saying, give up your divinity and go and spend all your time, care for him, look after him until he makes you his mistress or his slave. But, and it's very strong but, egon, or ego, I will not go, Casey, thither, there. I will not go there. Nemeseton deken ae. So this is, it would be a hateful thing. Optative here, it would be a hateful thing. So I will not go there, and poor son eusa, there's a sigma missing in here, so it's gone, so this is a future participle. It has the sense of looking after in order to serve his bed. The Trojan women, all of them, will blame me hereafter, and I have akia, I have akrita, which is something like countless or continual. It's that which cannot be distinguished. So I have countless cares in my thumos, in my soul. Well, she really lays into Aphrodite in a very spectacular way, and well, needless to say, tain de kolosamene. So glorious Aphrodite, having been angered, driven to anger, replied to her, "Me erethe, don't contend with me, Sketlia, you wretched woman, lest kosamine," another word for anger, we get variation here, lest in my anger, having become angry, meth etheo, this translates, I release you, so I desert you. This is an aorist subjunctive from meth hiemi here. Lest in my anger, I desert you. Now we get tos and hos. So the tos here is and apek Thero, and I, perhaps it's a future here, I will hate you as much as now I love you, ek pagla, passionately or terribly. So I will hate you as terribly as now I am fond of you. Meso, Metisami, and I will devise ekthia lugra, baleful ekthia, hateful things, literally in the middle of both sides, of the Trojans and of the Danans. Su de ken kakon oiton alei. Now this is the aorist middle subjunctive, and you would perish in a with a hateful fate, with a terrible fate. You would perish with a terrible fate. And we'll leave that there at this point. No, I will continue. Sorry, I'll do just a few more lines here. Thus she spoke, and Helen, ek geguia, this is the perfect participle, so born from Zeus, Katiskomina, holding on to her hiano, this is her robe, which was shining and bright, her bright shining robe, bay she went, Sige, in silence. And he's left it to the beginning of the next line. So after this extreme outburst, the goddess has responded pretty forcefully, and she's terrified, and she says, okay, I'll go, and she does so, Sige, in silence. It's beautiful, beautiful Greek. Lathen, so this is from Lanthano, she escaped the notice of all the Trojan women, and the goddess Erke led the way. And so we'll leave that at that point.